Thanks, Lasca Hirlock. Minister Halligan, you're very welcome to the Seanad Chamber today, and thank you for taking this very important item. Minister, Newtownwhite National School is a rural school situate between Killala and Ballina, and was in decline up until September 2012, when under the patronage divestment process, the patronage transferred from the Church of Ireland to Educate Together. And it's safe to say since then the school has gone from strength to strength, and this year, coming this September, they're looking at having 60 pupils, going from 54 this year, which will allow them to have a third teacher. And I just quickly want to commend the authorities in the Church of Ireland, the local bishop, the school community, in particular the staff and the Board of Management for their great work. And all of this, it has to be said, is in spite of the fact that the accommodation there is very, very poor. It's an old school, and it is really substandard to the modern day needs that we would envisage that pupils would enjoy. Imagine their joy about, I'd say 6 weeks ago, they got the news that they're going to get new accommodation, 2 new mainstream classrooms and a special education room as well. And this is really going to enhance their offering there, and it will free up existing classrooms which can be put to other use, like storage, like PE halls and all the rest. So that's good news. But there's a problem, Minister, and it's going on for years. At the time of the divestment, the property is in the name of the Church of Ireland, and what needs to be done is a lease needs to be drawn up, as I understand it, between the Church of Ireland and the Department of Education to regularise that situation. And the school now finds itself in a situation where it cannot act on foot of the notification from the department to provide additional accommodation. The Church of Ireland authorities, having I suppose, languished or have been waiting for years to get the lease sorted out, are not happy for the project to continue without the issue of the lease being sorted. Now, Minister, it's only, I suppose, it's a last resort, and hopefully not a last resort, but hopefully we'll see some progress here today and some answers. I've been communicating with the Minister's office, Minister McHugh and his predecessors, for quite some time now, inquiring to know why a lease, which is to me is a basic thing, has not been drawn up. What are the delays? What are the obstacles? The school has no clear answers to this, and I just also want to add, they're on a very constrained site. They have the offer of land immediately adjoining it to expand it. They're not going to be investing, the school community are not going to buy land when the land they're on isn't even sorted out, the title isn't sorted. I think we all understand that this is a basic requirement for the school to be able to continue and to grow. And I'd like some answers here today, Minister, but beyond that, if we could see some progress, it would be a welcome relief to the staff and the school community and the parents who want to see their new accommodation built.
Minister to respond,
Thanks,
please.
Senator Mulherin, and you may be happy with the answer I'm giving to you today. First of all, I want to thank you for raising the matter. As you may be aware, that Newtownwhite ETNS opened in September 2014 under the patronage divesting process. The patronage divesting process is one of a number of steps taken by the Department of Education to provide, if you like, a more diverse range of primary schools to cater for children with all religions and none. Under the process and following surveys undertaken, I think they were undertaken in 2012 and 2013, it was envisaged that the additional school patrons would make buildings which were, if you like, surface to requirements available for greater diversity, if sufficient demand for school under different patronage could be demonstrated. 11 new multi-denominational schools have been established under this particular process, with a further school due to be established in September. As the Senator is aware, patronage of schools often involves ownerships of schools and school properties. The ownership and control of school property can be a very complex issue, both constitutionally and in terms of property laws and rights. The ownership of the vast majority of school property by religious orders and trusts is, if you like, a historical legacy of the way in which Ireland's education system developed. Typically, ownerships can involve religious trusts, trustees, religious orders, bishops, both as landowners, school patrons, and the state. The divesting of the school in Newtownwhite to educate together was facilitated by transfer from the Church of Ireland. The Church of Ireland trustees who own the property and educate together engage directly with each other in relation to the leasing arrangements for the property. A draft lease was drawn up but was not finalised and executed, and it wasn't finalised, I should say, and executed between the parties. The school authority submitted an application to the department for additional accommodation in September 2019 as an additional teacher had been sanctioned for the school. The department recently approved funding for additional accommodation for the school for the purposes of constructing 2 mainstream classrooms, 1 special education teacher room and 1 WC for assisted users. Given the time frame for the planning permission process and the construction period, the school is working on an interim solutions, I believe, for September 2019. Can I also say that on foot of a request from one of the parties, and given that the school has been in place on the property since 2014, and recognising the additional accommodation to be made available from the property, the department has recently agreed to engage with the representatives of the landowners. I think this will be good news for you, with a view to regularising the position in relation to the lease. And the Senator can be assured, and I'm told this from the department today to tell you, that this has been actively progressed. And however, as the engagement is ongoing, you can understand that it would be inappropriate for me to make any comments on how that engagement is ongoing. But I believe the department are committed to finishing this process and their ongoing engagements, and maybe there might be some news in a few weeks. They may be able to party, but right now I'm not at liberty to say how that meeting is going.
Thank you. Brief response. Yes, thanks. Minister, thank you for your answer, and I'm taking some hope and positivity from the response. I do think, though, you might agree that this issue of a lease, which is ongoing since 2014, is an inordinate length of time for a lease to be sorted out, and it needs to be done because this is going to hold the school back, as I have described to you, from the point of view of their additional accommodation, the provision of that, and also acquiring land adjoining it, which they will not do. I want to ask you one point, Minister. Can you clarify for me if the Department of Education is party to the lease? My understanding is that there will be a lease drawn up between the Department of Education and the Church of Ireland, and then a sublease to educate together. Now, your answer doesn't indicate that, but that is the information the school has, and I think this is a very significant issue because from your answer it seems to be indicating that there's an issue between Educate Together and the Church of Ireland trustees, when the information I have is that the issue is with the Department of Education. And I think that the school community need to know, from that point of view, who the parties are and who the people are that need to agree a lease and who the parties are to this lease. So you might, Minister, I don't know if you have that information there, but I think it's critical to what I've been asking. Is the Department of Education party to the lease?
Thank you, Minister. You might
Thank
clarify.
you, Senator. To be honest with you, I don't have that information, but I can get that information for you in the next couple of days. I'll make sure I get it and I'll deliver it to you. I do think that, again, speaking to the department very briefly today, that there seems to be a confidence within the department that these negotiations will bring some end result. I agree with you that 2014 is a long time to be dealing with this issue. As I said, that given the time frame of all that's happened, the planning permission process, the construction period and so on, that we are now saying September 2019 for the work that's soon to be put in place. But coming to the question that you did ask me, I'm not familiar with that answer. I don't know it. There's no point in saying I do, but I'll find that answer for you and I'll make sure all the relevant information associated with the question you asked me is given to you within a number of days.
Thank you, Minister.